Hello, I am Tsotsi, and it's a Friday afternoon, and we are sitting in my shack. Me, Boston, the Aap, and Butcher. And we are drinking beer with idle hands, looking for something to do the next thing this afternoon. And I'm going to tell you my story, the narrative, which spans over 3 days of my life. Me, Tsotsi, not my real name, just a nickname they gave me. And now I'm Mrs. Jansen, but I'm Tsotsi. Let's start. There had been a silence, as always happened at about the same time. A long silence when none of them moved, except maybe to lift up a glass and hold it high over their heads for the dregs to drip into their mouths, or to yawn and stretch and then slump back into the chairs. When one of them might scratch himself, another consider the voice of a woman in the backyard. The old woman who was scolding, rattling her words like stones in a tin, and all of them in their own time looking at the street outside. And the shadows, wondering if they were not yet long enough. Now, if they say they are wondering if the shadows are not yet long enough, that means the sun is beginning to set. So it's beginning to get nighttime, né? And they wonder if it's dark enough for them to do the deeds, to go the gang operation style. So that is what they mean if they say they're wondering if the shadows are long enough yet. It was not a deliberate silence. There was no reason for it, being at first just the pause between something said and then the remark, but growing from that because they were suddenly all without any more words. It ended, as always happened, at about the same time, when the young one, the youngest of the four, the one who had said the least, who had sat there and listened to the other three, the one they call Tsotsi, leaned forward and brought his slim, delicate hands together. The fingers interlocked in manner of a prayer. Now there is the first sign, the manner of a prayer, that humanity lurks something there beneath the surface. So Tsotsi came forward, sits like this. And he waited. Before that one, called Boston, had been telling his story. Boston always had a story. He started early in the afternoon when they came together in Tsotsi's room and settled down with the first bottle of beer, telling it from then for a long time, almost to the hour when the shadows were long enough. Now we know what that means, no? And Tsotsi told them what they would be doing that night. He told it slowly, taking his time, the words coming in an easy rhythm between the swallows of beer, the belches, the bother of an opening of another bottle, and the other interruptions, like leaving the room for the backyard where you rested against the hot, corrugated iron fence with an outstretched arm and pissed into the sand and watched it soak up and dry away before you had left the spot. So that was their afternoon ritual. Now, they came together in Tsotsie's shack, drink some beer, yap, telling stories, sometime going out for a pee-pee, right? In the backyard, just like gangsters leading into the corroded iron fence, and watch it dry in the sand, waiting for night to fall, for the shadows to get long. Then Tsotsi will tell them what they will be doing. When he got back, he would ask, "Where was I?" And sometimes someone remembered, and most times no one cared, because it wasn't important. All that mattered was that his voice filled that last reluctant hour of an afternoon that was heavy with the weight of idle hands. So no one really cares what Boston was telling them. That was just passing time. Idle hands. For them to wait it when the shadows was long enough, when it was dark enough, so that they can go about their business. What Tsotsi said. They toyed with their glasses. They drew out the wet rings left by the beer bottles into strange patterns on the tabletop, while Boston, with a gesture that was becoming habitual, rubbed his eyes with his forefinger and his thumb of his right hand. It was a strain to be without glasses. The other two were merely listeners. Diab, so called because of his long arms, his knuckles, to drag in the dust, listen attentively to every word. Sometimes he had nothing to say or ask a question, and he labored a lot in finding words and putting them together. So that means Aap struggled, to form sentences that make sense. So he was just jerking out words here and there. Yes, okay. All right. The last of the four, the one called Butcher, built like Tsotsi, with lithe, supple bones, but different in his small, dangerous eyes, and his pendular lower lip. Pendular means it rocks back and forth. Butcher always listened, but with impatience. Why all the words? His stories were told in 10 words or less, but there was nothing else except to listen. Boston's stories were of no consequence. The time he did this, where he did it, and how, and with whom. So that means Boston wasn't just telling stories. The stories has consequences, because he picked the stories for exactly the right time, in exactly the right place, to exactly the right person. A walker with a pushcart trundles past in the street outside. They see the shadow long after the man had disappeared. Or the time this happened, and why it did, and how that happened started off a lot of other things that unfold one after the interminable other in the effortless drones of Boston's voice. A window of the house across the street, which they can see clearly through their open door. The window burns fiercely with the reflected light of the sun. It must be low. so they could see a window with the sun's reflection. No? And every time that reflection looks like a fire, they know the sun must be low now. It's not long when they can go out and do their work. Not long now, or that man, that strange man of a time back, went there and never returned. The old woman is shaking a tin of scolding words in the backyard. A child cries. Butcher shift with a sudden spasm of impatience. Why? Why? The Aap is asking a question. Boston laughs. Because. Another bottle comes up from under the table. What? No. They fill their glasses. Because, Boston continues, because of this cherry. Ja, man, buggered him up, she did. This then being the pause, and then more than the pause, because it was also the end of the story. And no one had any more words, and they sat silent a long time, until the youngest of the four, the one they called Tsotsi, until suddenly his hands were together, and the other three looked at him and waiting. Boston smiled. Butcher twisted in another spasm of impatience and hate for the silent man. The Aap waited impatiently. Tsotsi saw it all. The smile that hid fear. The eyes that hid hate. The face that hid nothing. You, I can trust, he said to himself, looking at the Aap. You, I must never turn my back on. And it was Butcher he looked at. And you, Boston, you smile at me, and your smile hides fear. What's it, Tsotsi? Boston asked. He held Tsotsi's gaze for a few seconds. But when the muscles at the end of his mouth began to stiffen, he looked down in his empty glass. Ja, what's it, man? Butcher asked. The Aap remained silent. It's Friday night, Tsotsi said, and he looked out of the door. The shadows were long enough. It would soon be dark. The trains, he said. Let's take one on the trains. Butcher was the first to react. He smiled and then laughed. A cold sound, sharp as a knife blade. Ja, man, one on the trains, he said. But it was Boston that Tsotsi was watching, and Boston knew, and he kept his eyes down, no longer seeing the glass in his hands. But even like that, Tsotsi could see his forehead, and that was enough, because soon the first film of sweat was shining there. The Aap needed time. He repeated what Tsotsi had said. Yeah, the trains, the trains. Let's take one on the trains. He thought about it, framed the picture, his part in it. Oh, it was simple. He knew it all. He nodded. Yeah, that was all he had to say. Boston looked up. All three were watching him now. Why? He asked. and he played nervously with the glass between his hands. Why not? Tsotzi's voice had an edge. Boston shrugged his shoulders, tried to yawn, but it didn't work. So he sighed, as if bored. Sometimes you pick one, and he's got nothing. Tsotsi let him wait for the reply. I never make a mistake. The aap nodded. Yeah, that's true. Not once. So can you see the ruthlessness, the hardened criminal in Tsotsi's gang? But it hit something, nah? It did something. And Tsotsi said, I never make a mistake. Not once.